Ha-Joon Chang, welcome to UpFront. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So on Wednesday, US President Donald Trump announced his grand global tariff plan with a sweeping 10% tariff on all imports and higher tariffs on dozens of countries. The EU got slapped with 20%. China slapped with 34%. And these are trade partners of the United States. He says this was a day of liberation aimed at making America wealthy again. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that this is based on a very wrong assumption. I mean, the starting point of Mr. Trump's analysis is that whatever the trade deficit that his country is running with another country is because the other country is playing an unfair game. I mean, he was even using expressions like looting and pillaging and raping, and I mean, I mean, it's a bit like saying that because I'm I don't know buying all this food from my corner grocery store, the grocery store owner is robbing me. I mean, it's not as if the US is just giving money away to these other countries. They are buying things from them, and frankly, I mean, this is based on a bizarre analysis, and the kind of tariff that he's imposing just doesn't make sense because it's not even like properly calculating what kind of the tariffs other countries are using.
Okay, let's just talk then about his grand plan. Now, for decades, American industry has been undercut by imports from China. In fact, that's why China is known as the factory of the world. Donald Trump is promising a rebirth of American manufacturing. He's basically saying he's going to bring back manufacturing jobs to the United States. There's going to be increased production. Is his plan even feasible? Can American industry produce at scale to replace Chinese imports and close the manufacturing gaps? Can that be done?
I'm afraid that this is not going to work. Whatever the plan is, the U.S. Economy has deindustrialized or lost its industrial base on a massive scale for the last 4 decades. Yeah? In the last 4 decades, the whole global economy was restructured through this phenomenon of global value chains, where things are produced in different parts and then put together in another country and exported to all over the world. Yeah? Now he's trying to undo all this, and this cannot be done in a couple of years. Yeah? I mean, it will take at least a couple of decades of concerted effort, and he doesn't have time to do that. Yeah? Moreover, he doesn't have actually any plan to make this happen, because if you want to make this happen, there are lots of things that you have to do. It's not enough to put up a tariff barrier against, say, I don't know, the Chinese semiconductors, and the Chinese company comes and sets up a factory in the United States. I mean, they've done some of that, but factories that have to be supported by supplier networks, yeah, and the workers with the right skills, the right type of infrastructure, even universities in the area that do research that is relevant for what the factory is doing, and that all of these the industrial tissues, if you like, have been destroyed over the last 4 decades. It will take at least a couple of decades to rebuild all of them. So it's a fantasy to think that he can do this in the 2-3 years' time.
Okay, so a few days before these tariffs were announced, we saw that China, Japan, and South Korea met for a dialogue, an economic dialogue for the first time in 5 years. And of course, they want to promote regional ties. Now, these countries have historically had tensions, political differences, territorial disputes. Given the volatility, the unreliability of the United States under Donald Trump, are we likely to see new alliances, new cooperation deals, new relationships emerging in response to the United States?
Yeah, I think that's what is going to happen, because I'm from South Korea. The Korea, Japan, China, these countries have very complicated love-hate relationships. But these the actions by the United States are now serious enough that they are now trying to explore possibilities of joint counteractions and so on. South Korea actually is a very pro-U.S. country, yeah? But and we have a free trade agreement with the United States which was signed about 15 years ago, yeah? And that's now the waste paper, yeah? That treaty is a waste paper because the Americans have signed the free trade agreement and suddenly say, no, we are actually going to impose a 25% tariff on you, yeah? So even this the pro-U.S. the Koreans are saying we have to retaliate. Yeah. So I think in the long run this will lead to a geopolitical realignment. Yeah. The more important thing is that this actions by Donald Trump is actually galvanizing the countries into thinking about a different world order. Eh? Now, I don't know whether Mr. Trump will withdraw this in the next couple of years because the inflationary pressure coming from these very high tariffs will be unbearable. And if there's one good thing about Mr. Trump, it's that he has no ideology. Yeah? I mean, as far as he can have power and use that power to make his business empire more profitable, he will be okay with any policy. So hopefully this pressure of inflation will make him change his mind. But I think by then the damage will have been done. Yeah? Now no one will want to sign a treaty with the United States. Yeah? Now the countries will begin to think of a world without the United States.
Okay, so the U.S. is isolating itself, even though he's not ideological. He's causing global turbulence and global disruptions. I mean, have we seen anything like this? A lot of analysts and commentators and academics have spoken about how damaging this has been, how it will affect United States consumers. Why is he doing this?
Oh, he's doing it because, the U.S. Political and economic elite over the last few decades have actually pushed this free trade idea very, very strongly, and that frankly destroyed a lot of jobs in the United States. Yeah, so there are a lot of Americans that are desperate because they have lost all this kind of decent, stable jobs that usually come with the manufacturing sector. Their communities have been devastated. There's a widespread drug abuse. I mean, the kind of thing that the Vice President J.D. Vance wrote about in his book Hillbilly Elegy, which I haven't read, but that apparently is about that. Yeah, so there is a huge grievance. Yeah. And he's basically exploiting it to put himself in power. But unfortunately, these disaffected people in the United States voting for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance is what the British call Turkeys voting for Christmas. Yeah, I mean, because the kind of policies that they are doing is yeah, I mean, it might give you a moment of joy because the Americans are showing them, that pushing back the Chinese and that, shouting at the Europeans. But in the end, these are things that are going to hurt those people.
Ha-Joon Chang, thank you so much for joining us here on UpFront. A pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.